We're speaking today with Sonny Vu, Chief Executive Officer at AREVO, the company behind the new Superstrata bike. Sonny, how are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, good. It's good to hear. How have things been for you during these challenging times that we've been having? What sort of impact has COVID-19 had on you? We obviously have to start with this question. We have to get COVID-19 kind of out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a challenging time for all of us. We're mostly working remotely, so we're doing okay, but it's probably more of an emotional toll on everyone, more than anything.
Yeah, I can imagine. And how many have you got in your team within the business, I suppose, that specifically focuses on the Superstrata bike?
Yeah. It's so at AREVO we're about 50 people spread across various places in the world. Mostly in Milpitas, which is in the South Bay of the Bay Area, San Francisco, but also teams in Japan and Vietnam.
Okay, cool. So maybe you could also give us a quick background to you as a person, and from maybe I obviously looked at your LinkedIn profile, and obviously we've connected. And in terms of your time at Microsoft, also Misfit Wearables,
right.
To where you are now, it'd be great to have a quick resume, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I went to school thinking I'd be a math professor, but it turns out I'm not that good at math, so I ended up being an entrepreneur instead. And I've just been doing startups all my life. I did a software company, dropped out of school, started my software company and sold it, did a medical device company, and then did Misfit Wearables, which is the last company I did in the wearable technology space. Then we sold that to Fossil Group back in 2015, and then just been investing in deep tech startups with technology that's very hard to make, that has a deep impact. Over the last 5 years, 30 investments, and AREVO was just by far the most interesting company that we'd seen.
And so AREVO as a business, what does the company specialize in? What would be your kind of primary specialism?
Yeah, so we with AREVO, we not only did we decide to make an investment, we decided to join the company altogether. It's the short of it is carbon fiber composites are really interesting things. The material is very interesting because it's very light and strong. The highest strength to weight ratio of just about any material I can think of. But it's very slow and expensive to make, very dirty to make as well. And so we've basically dramatically automated that process to make it in order to make these parts much faster and much less expensively.
Okay, cool. So maybe what we'll do, we'll get onto the materials bit. Really fascinates me, actually. So maybe we can geek out about that in a minute. But maybe if you could talk us through the Superstrata brand, because obviously we had the release. You have a new bike. It's distinctive looking. A number of interesting aspects to that. So how did that come out? Well, that was just a natural progression from the materials that you're working with?
Yeah, absolutely. We look to talk to people about continuous carbon fiber composite additive manufacturing, blah blah blah. It's just it's a mouthful, just even to say. So we wanted to reduce it to something that people could really understand, and so we decided to make a product that you could really enjoy. And so bicycles, why not? It's a great time for it. We've been working on a bicycle for a number of years, a bunch of iterations, and this whole COVID thing kind of encouraged us to really double down on that effort. So we continued to iterate and came up with a Superstrata design, something that we really liked for ourselves, a bike that we'd want. And so the bike really is a demonstration of our technology, but it's really kind of ran away as a project in its own. Like, we've just really fallen in love with the product, and so far it seems like people have are interested. And so we just literally an hour ago concluded our day one of the campaign. Yeah. So it's really been quite a dramatic last 24 hours.
Yeah, I can imagine. So maybe let's get into the tech then a bit. So am I correct? It's CFRP, which is carbon fiber reinforced polymer. So that's obviously the primary material that you're using in terms of the composites. Maybe if you could talk us through how that comes to play with the Superstrata bike. Obviously, you have a unibody bike frame set, and am I right? It is also effectively 3D printed. Is that?
That's right. Yeah. So carbon fiber reinforced polymers structures are usually laid down in sheets and then either pressed together or in some ways melted together in some way. So that's kind of how composites are made right now. We actually are taking a 3D printing approach, an additive approach to manufacturing these parts. And as a result, we can make the entire frame in one piece, so-called unibody. I think there's, there's some thinking out there that people already have unibody carbon fiber bikes. Maybe there's a few out there, but by and large, they are multi-body. They're multiple pieces made around molds that are then, and then these pieces are then glued together or somehow laser welded or bolted together in some way. So as a result, those pieces are much, they're not very strong because it's the joints and the weak points, the glue that causes the weakness. Whereas there's no joints or glue or anything like that for our piece. It really comes out of the machine as one entire piece of carbon fiber, so of composite. So that makes it much more impact resistant.
Yeah, yeah. So it's obviously one printing, if you like. So I'm imagining like a 3D printer we've seen. Roughly how long does it take to produce the frame then?
It's first of all, it depends. I'm sorry. Maybe we can start. Oh yeah. So
glass of water. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So we each printing takes about. It really depends on the size, but it'll be anywhere from 10 to 11 hours or so a frame. So we'll put out about 2. I mean, we're running these 24/7, so we'll put roughly 2 frames per machine per day.
Okay, cool. And obviously, then it depends on your capacity in terms of the machines you've got, which you may or may not want to share. It's entirely up to you. If you do,
I can definitely share that. Excuse me.
Yeah, glug away. Yeah.
Yeah. So we well, we're in the process of setting up, I believe, one of the largest composite additive manufacturing facilities in the world. So we're going to set up our so-called print farm, and where we're going to be having hundreds of machines in one place. Yeah, and you got to start with 1, and then have 20, and then have 100, and then have 300. So we're going to grow this over time, and that's what's going to support production of these.
Yeah. Fantastic. And also just in terms of the process, so if I want to order a bike, I dial in my measurements.
That's right.
And then the bike is actually effectively built to my.
That's right. It's just like a tailor, there's going to be a number of measurements that we're going to ask for at the end of the campaign. We have a configurator, and basically the main thing we need is actually your arm length, your leg length, your height, and your weight. So it's almost like taking measurements for a tailor. Yeah. It is like taking, I mean, if we can get that many measurements, that would be even better. But, so if we have these few measurements, and in addition, the ride style, some people want to have an aggressive style, some want to have a nice touring style, and that's fine. All of those are factored into the size and some aspects of the shape of the frame and the fork and the handlebar.
So much like you would get like an aero road bike, which would have a much more aggressive frame, which is kind of akin more to a time trial triathlon bike. Right. You can do that too, and I suppose you would almost envisage a triathlon bike would be on your roadmap at some point.
Oh, definitely. Oh, yeah. We've got several different front ends that will be available. We're envisioning at least 4 different front ends, because not everyone's a triathlete. Some people just want to have a nice Sunday ride. And so all of that factors into the size and shape of the frame and the fork. So it's really going to fit you perfectly. We're saying that we can make frames for anyone who's 4'7". I don't know what that is in the metric, but don't worry, 4'7" to 7'4". So the bike might look a little odd because we're limited by the size of the tires that's available on the market. That's generally available on the market. We're not going to be printing tires anytime soon. Yeah. And so based on that, the frame will fit you perfectly.
Wow, fascinating. So in terms of the material itself, so there've been a sort of number of wonder materials that we've seen in the market. So there's graphene has been spoken about for a number of years actually now. There's another material, Dyneema. So how would the CFRP composite fit in terms of its strength to weight ratio?
Yeah, so you want strength to weight ratio, you want stiffness as well. I love Dyneema, ultra high molecular weight polymers are wonderful, but they're kind of stretchy. It's rubber, right? And so we want something that's very strong and light. And so carbon fiber reinforced polymers, it's many times stronger than metal. And among composites, it's one of the strongest. But now that also comes down to what kind of polymer you use and what kind of carbon fiber you use. And so we're using industrial grade polymer and carbon fiber, so it's really good stuff.
So in terms of like the strength, I mean, this is maybe a difficult question to answer, but obviously we can maybe, I think you've done a comparison with titanium, but in terms of also comparing titanium, but also comparing with, say, regular carbon fiber that you might see on a high-end road bike in any market.
What would you about that? Yeah, absolutely. So compared to titanium, carbon fiber reinforced polymers, I'll just say carbon fiber composites, can be up to 60 times stronger than steel and 15 times more than titanium. It's basically 1/3 the weight of titanium, but 5 times stronger than titanium. So 15 times the strength to weight ratio. Now that depends on the part and the location and whatnot. So, you know, just because the orientation of the composite is dictates its strength. Okay. For us, that's less of an issue because we can, because of our 3D printing process, where we don't use sheets, so we also have 3-dimensional strength. Most composites only have 2-dimensional strength.
Okay.
So that's kind of one difference between us and other carbon fiber composite materials and bikes. The second is we're using thermoplastic instead of thermoset, which is yet a different material class. And thermoplastic is what I guess the composite industry has kind of graduated into from thermoset. So a lot of the next generation military aircraft, that's thermoplastic, not thermoset, from what I understand. And so between these factors, these bikes are going to be much more impact resistant, much stronger than other composite bikes.
And also, as you say, what was the weight differential between titanium?
Yeah.
So 15 times stronger than titanium, but how much lighter did you say?
So 3 times lighter, 5 times stronger.
Wow.
So 15 times the strength to weight ratio.
Wow.
Now, just to be clear, we're not the lightest composite bike. We are probably several hundred grams heavier than other composite bikes. Potentially, it just depends on which bike you compare to. Okay, because our walls are thicker. But for us, for the average consumer, they're not going to really notice a few hundred grams as much as a bike that can only be showcased. I know some friends with carbon fiber bikes. The first thing they do is they tell me how much they paid for it, which is kind of funny. And then they tell me, and then when I ask to ride it, they say, "Oh no, don't touch it. You have to be really careful." I'm like, "Yeah, but you just told me it's really strong." And they're like, "No, it's just really light." So this is going to be a very strong carbon fiber bike that does not have to be a museum piece. It can be your beater bike.
Okay, yeah, but it will be a light bike. I mean, I think obviously with
it'll be lighter than any of the metal ones.
Yeah, and I suppose obviously with a lot of disc brakes, as obviously we have this migration from rim to disc brakes. The disc brake brakes are generally that little bit heavier because of obviously the stopping and the way that obviously that needs to be built into the frame. So I'm guessing it would be comparable to most disc road bikes that are using regular carbon, I would guess. But I think the thing that's really interesting, sorry, answer that as well, but the price point I think is particularly interesting because you've gone in with quite an aggressive price point. So like $2,800 for the Superstrata Terra, and obviously a little bit more for the e-bike, but for the regular road bike, that does sound like quite an interesting price point for what is essentially a custom product with a unique material. So maybe talk a bit around those couple of points. If that's okay.
Absolutely. We think it's not affordable in the common sense of the word. I mean, $3,000 for a bicycle, that's still quite expensive. So we're working on getting that price down. But from a value perspective, I mean, first of all, you can't even, as far as I know, even get a true unibody carbon fiber bike right now, and certainly not one that's custom printed, custom fit for you. And so I think it's at $2,700. It's a good value. And if we can lower it even more, we will. And the main reason we're able to do this is, we're making our own material. we're using robots instead of humans. So there's a lot of automation. We're using software that helps automate, putting strength where strength is needed, and we're making our own material. So all of this, this verticality in the supply chain really enables us to get to a lower price point.
Wow, fascinating, fascinating. And just a final quick question on the bike before we just sort of wrap up with a couple of sort of general questions. So I put an order in. So you're kind of taking pre-orders now. Am I right that it's around December time that you're looking? So
That's right.
Is that essentially your turnaround time? So pre-orders now and then delivery from around September.
Yeah. So our turnaround time in the future will be much less. It'll be our goal is days. However, right now we're still, there's still a lot of testing to be done. We still have to finish our print farm. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done. This is why we're doing pre-orders. So the first units will be done. Actually, they'll be done in September, but we'll be doing a lot of testing throughout the fall. And then I think we'll be comfortable shipping the first units in December. And by and large, the majority of the units will be shipped in Q1, Q2 next year. It just depends on the order in which people put in their orders.
Got you. But you made an interesting point then that in the future, so 12 months from now, you could be in literally a few days turnaround.
Yeah, the plan, I mean, our vision is you go into, well, actually, you just go into the website. Actually, I was about to say you go into a bike shop, but you would not go into a bike shop. You would just go into the website, enter in your tailor measurements, probably 6, 7 of them, configure your product, the color, the shape, the wheels, all that stuff. Actually, the shape will be configured for you, and then you just approve it. And then, and you get your bike, hopefully, I mean, our vision, our outrageous vision is within a week or 2. But who knows? I mean, that's, like I said, that might be 2 years out, but certainly in under a month.
Wow. And just obviously you mentioned not the bike store. So obviously it's a direct to consumer business. Are you open to the idea of retail at some point, given?
Absolutely. We're trying to figure out.
There's a servicing and aftermarket element as well that you're going to need to partner with retailers on.
Absolutely. We need the bike shops to partner with. We're trying to figure out how to work with them because a number of them have asked for inventory, which we don't understand what that means. Like, well, what's your, like what, I mean, so we might just like print one bike as an example, but we don't really want to let people ride it too much because they'll say, oh, this doesn't fit. It's like, well, it's because it was printed for an average human, So I don't know. We'll have to figure these details out right now. Right now, we're just trying to get the word out because we're a startup and we're just getting started.
Cool. Well, on that context, in the sense of being a startup, but given that you've got many years' experience setting up companies as a sort of serial entrepreneur, do you have any advice for people? We've been asking this question. So we have this series of Inside the News. We pick a news story, we chat through with nice people like yourself, and we always ask this question around advice for setting up a business. I think it'd be great to get your views on that. Clearly, it's a challenging time at the moment, but would you say go for it, or anything in particular that you would caution people with, or recommendations for going it alone at the moment?
I would just say maybe a few things. Things that I would certainly tell myself, say 15, 20 years ago, and I wish someone would have told me. First of all, now is a great time to start a business. This is, it's in the depths of economic downturn. That's when I think some of the greatest companies have been started, and talent is available. Capital might not be available, but I mean, capital generally is pretty hard to come by anyway. So you're just kind of so that's so you have some advantage there. And by the time we've recovered, you'll have a business running already. That's when everyone else is starting companies and getting started. So that's not interesting. You want to be, 6, 12 months ahead when people are just waking up. So yeah, now's a great time. And by far, the most important thing is team, man. Like, having a common set of values and vision, and clarity of vision. A lot of people are like, oh, we're very visionary, whatever. It's like, well, no, you just have to have a view that's very clear that you drive towards, that everyone else buys into in terms of the why you're doing it and how you're going to do it. And as long as you have that, I don't know, it just makes what is otherwise a pretty tough journey much more manageable. and much more enjoyable. So yeah,
Yeah, it's been fun as well.
AREVO, it's been so much fun working with the team.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got people in 7 different time zones, and I don't know. I think you can sense it in the execution of the campaign. It's not me. It's clearly everyone else poring over the details and caring about every dotted I and crossed T.
Yeah, it's nice to have that team, as you say, that support behind you.
And you can't pay for that. You know, you have to, like, you know, people have got to be into it.
Yeah, they've got to buy into everything. Absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, this has been absolutely fantastic discussion. I think probably try and keep to time. So I just want to say thanks ever so much for your time. It's been great to hear from you, and hope we can speak again and find out and keep an eye on how the Superstrata bike goes from strength to strength. So thanks again, Sonny. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to be here. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks.